Yeah, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the TowerCoverage.com webinar. We are going to cover the basics of TowerCoverage.com, how to use it, how to set up your account. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please feel free to put them in the chat box. We'll try to answer them either as we go or we'll at the end of the session as well. So that way we can make sure we get everybody's questions answered. First, we're going to start out by what is TowerCoverage.com. So TowerCoverage.com is an RF propagation website. It allows you to input your access point settings as well as your fiber or cable routes, so that way you can display them on a Google Map overlay. It also has website integration and also an API billing push so that way you can push all of your end user data into your billing platform as well. Once you've created an account with TowerCoverage.com, it's very simple to do. From the main homepage, there's a register button. It's very simple. Uh, you'll open this up. You'll complete the form. You're going to have to agree to the terms and conditions. This is pretty standard. Please read through it, make sure you understand everything, and then hit accept. Fill out the very simple form here. There is a couple optional fields such as the Google Map key, the address to. Those are optional. Your Google Map key is not required, but for a tier 1 through a tier 3 account, there's certain features on Google Maps, the overlay that are disabled for the lower tier account unless you bring your own key. Those features are very simple features, and you may not even notice them unless you activate it. It's the autocomplete when searching for addresses, as well as the Street View if you're wanting to use Street View on the maps. Those are the two features that are disabled unless you put your own key in there. If you're tier 4 or higher, it's automatically provided using our key. Once you fill out the form, you can select to do a 14-day or a 2-day trial. The 2-day trial doesn't require any billing information. You simply just verify the email that's sent to you, and away you go. You get 2 days to use Tower Coverage and all of its features. You get to check it out, and at the end of the 2 days, it goes back to a free account. And if you decide to upgrade, then you can create a subscription. The 14-day trial does require billing information, and then it starts your billing period begins the day after the 14 days is expired. Once you've got your account all created and everything, you're going to go ahead and log in, and you're going to make sure that your account is all set up and ready to start being used. You'll go to your account settings. There's a lot of different features in the account settings. For instance, the company profile is very important. It utilizes this address if you decide to display a map publicly on the TowerCoverage.com public map. What this does is if a customer comes looking for internet service and they stumble across TowerCoverage.com, this will allow you to have your coverage area on our public map, and when they fill out the form, if the customer looking for service falls within 50 miles of your coverage, we send their information to you with the link path results to your coverages to let you know that there's somebody looking for internet that potentially doesn't know about you. So it's a very good thing to do. Also, this information from the profile, the email address does not display, and the first name, last name, but the business and the business address and your website and your phone number, those display on the public map. If they click on your pin, the information from your company profile will display on that pin. And then also, this address is utilized whenever creating a new site or a new link. It will automatically open the Google Map on your business location if we're able to geolocate this address that you put in here. It just makes it to where when you're creating sites, the map starts out in your area rather than starting out where we are. So it's very important to have this up to date. Once you've got your company profile up to date, you're going to want to add users. Take care when doing this. You can add up to 2 additional admin users, but keep in mind they have full access to your account. They have all the access that you have, with the exception of you can delete them. they cannot delete you, but they can update your billing. They can use your API key. They can generate the API form code. They can change your EUS submission stuff, your push information, and so on. So take care when adding admins. You want to make sure that somebody that you want them to have that kind of access, because they can delete your maps, delete coverages, mess up your billing, push everything. So the next type of user is an input user. We have input and read-only users available. So for instance, this one over here is a read-only. So you can actually send a user, set it to a group. So basically, anytime your say sales at TowerCoverage.com, when they pop in, you could set it to where their start page is a multi-map, and you could select which multi-map and set them to read only or set them to input user, whichever one you prefer. This will make it to where whenever they log in, so your sales team can just log in with sales at mycompany.com, and all of them can use the same login. And when they log in, it automatically opens them up to the multi-map that you want them qualifying customers off of. So it's a very handy little thing, just to set up your users accordingly, so that way it expedites the process of your users utilizing the TowerCoverage.com account. Once you've got all your users in that you wish to put in, there is some other stuff in here. Your managed subscription, this is where you go to upgrade and downgrade your account. Very simple process. Or if something happens with your payment and you go to free, your account gets moved to a free status, you just log in, go to your managed subscription. That's where you take care of all of that. Also down here in the bottom left is your payment details. So any of your payments that are made through the TowerCoverage.com website, you can even print an invoice from within the payment details section. So you just log in, any payments that have gone through, and you click the invoice button, and you'll be able to print your invoices out. Once you've done all that, then you can upload a logo. The purpose of this logo, it does have to be less than 3 meg in size. It needs to be a PNG or JPEG. What this does is it allows you to upload your company logo. So whenever you create like a point-to-point link, so if you're doing a bid on a job for somebody that wants a point-to-point wireless link or a fiber route or something like that. But on your point-to-point links, there's an option to print links, and when you print that link, uh, at the top of the link, your logo will appear on that link whenever you print it out instead of the TowerCoverage.com logo. Next spot you're going to take a look at is going to be your EUS settings. So this is primarily aimed at the EUS or end user submission iframe integration. These settings do not affect the API. So if you're using the custom form, which we'll kind of point at here in a minute, it will not affect the results or the output or the behavior of the custom form. It's strictly the iframe. There's also the add custom pin button here. This allows you to add pin types. By default, there are 4 pin types: the serviceable, new EUS, no service, and installed pins. You cannot modify or edit these. They're forever in your account. But you can add as many as you like and remove them at your leisure. It will not let you remove them once you're using them on an EUS submission, and it will tell you so if that is the case. But you can add any pin type you want, so that way whenever you're collecting the data in your Tower Coverage account, it makes it to where you can mark specific locations. You can put a little angry face for people who don't pay their bill, somebody who's prone to getting hit by lightning, whatever you want to use them for. It's just a handy little feature for you to keep track of stuff in your account. Your Google Analytics ID can go in here to track your Tower Coverage website integration on your Google Analytics. And you can also set up your weekly EUS submission report as well. Down here in the EUS email portion, you can add up to 4 additional email addresses. By default, the email address that's in your company profile will always receive your EUS submissions, and it shows up here, but you can add additional ones as well, or you can add a distribution group if you would like to do so. Setting your default settings makes it to where the iframe, whenever that iframe opens up on your website, when you integrate Tower Coverage into your site, it automatically selects the country and the state for you. or for your customers. So when they're filling out the form, it's just a couple less things that they have to do. If your network is only in the state of Missouri, then you can set the default settings, so that way people don't have to go and find Missouri through the list of states. Pretty simple. The next thing we're going to take a look at is our API. So the API, we integrate with many different billing systems, and they could all not be here. Actually, it looks like I believe all the ones that I know about are. If you have some other billing platform, or you created your own CRM, it's very simple. To accept Tower Coverage EUS API pushes, you can go to our wiki, and the EUS API, an example of the XML that we push is there. We just send a raw data push. It contains all of the information that you see in the EUS data. All of that data is pushed. What they do with it varies depending on the different billing platforms. Some of them create a ticket, some create a new account. It's just all based on the CRM. So if you're seeing your EUS submissions and Tower Coverage, but you're not seeing the same information in your billing system, feel free to contact them, and ask them why all the data is not being pushed in there. Our side of it is simply just a raw data push, and we send it all. So that's something that varies platform to platform. But it's very simple. All of the integration, they have an API key and a push URL that usually under their third-party integration section of the platform. Some of them actually even have a TowerCoverage.com section of the platform, and you can get your API key and your push URL. Not all of them require a push username and password, but some of them do. So if they do require it, you stick that in there, and every EUS submission that comes through the iframe is automatically pushed through, and the emails are sent to your EUS settings. Up here in the top right corner, here is your account ID and your account API key. This is the API key for TowerCoverage.com. This is not a Google Maps API key. Sometimes there's confusion with that, but to just be clear, that is your TowerCoverage.com API key. So if you're wanting to utilize the custom website integration, the pre-qualification API, the link path API, if you're wanting to pull an XML of all of your tower sites, those are the two things the two primary things that you're going to need is that account ID and that key. Every single one of the APIs does require that. It checks to see if you have calls available. The amount of calls available to your account are determined by what tier you are subscribed to. So keep that in mind if you're wanting to use that custom form. You want to make sure that you have enough API calls available on your account for the average number of submissions that you get in a month. So keep that in mind. The EUS API is very, very customizable. It behaves identical to the iframe EUS. The biggest difference is that you can customize it. It will show up in Tower Coverage exactly the same as the EUS form submissions, the iframe submissions. The difference is you can put generic information and hide certain fields if you don't want to utilize the where did you hear about us, or if you don't want to utilize the best method of contact or the best time to contact. And you can even actually change those to some other question if you wish to do so. You just have to keep in mind whenever it comes into Tower Coverage, it is going to the whatever you set the question of best time to contact to, that question is going to appear in your Tower Coverage account as the best time to contact field, although your definition of it is different than what the iframe does. So you can really get custom with it. You can change the color, you can change any of the font, anything you want to do with this form, as long as you don't break the functionality and the actual required fields of the post over to the Tower Coverage API. The options are endless. You can integrate the pre-qualification API into this as well, so that way it gives you an immediate response, a yes or a no. Is this customer serviceable? That allows you to redirect them to a page on your website that lets them automatically sign up for service and create an account if they are serviceable. All kinds of different options. The next section is our land cover section. So in the land cover, our data is based off of USGS satellite data. So what this means is that it scans it in a 1 arc second. Land cover is in the continental United States is 1 arc second, and it's most of the world it is 3 arc seconds or better. All of the continental United States is 1 arc second or better, which means that each section of the United States is read in 30 meter by 30 meter squares. And depending on what the satellite sees in that particular location, each 30 by 30 square is assigned a type of land cover, and that's what these colors represent. They are worldwide standards, so that all of these colors, you can see these reflect on a coverage map as well, and I'll show you that as well when we get there. So keep in mind these colors that you see, because that lets you identify what types of coverage data is assigned in any given area. So as you go through here, different parts of the world or different parts of the country can vary just from one side of a state to another side. The Your heights, your average height of evergreen trees, your average density, it all can vary depending on the type of trees in your area and the amount of rainfall or lack of rainfall that you get. So if you're in a spot that has you know 300, 400 foot redwood trees, then you're going to want to make sure that you specify that in your land cover settings. Another very key point would be the urban buildup low and urban buildup high. If you're near a big city, your average building height is going to be higher than if you're out in the middle of Kansas. Most places out there are just little one-story ranch style houses, where if you get downtown St. Louis, Missouri, they're 300, 400 foot type deal. So you want to keep in mind those variables whenever you're setting up your land cover, which also brings me to the point of you can create multiple. So if your network spreads across many different sections of a state or a country, you can create multiple different land covers to accommodate for those different areas of your network. So if on one side of your network you have 300-foot redwoods, and on the other side of your network it's a barren desert, you can do so by clicking Add New, and you can assign a name to it. And when you hit your Add New, it's going to create them down here in this drop down menu. So as you can see, the right now we're on the standard one, so we have our densities are around the 450 to 500 range. If I go to my testing land 50%, it sets all of them. I have them all set to 5,000. The density percentage on the land cover settings is a 0 to 10,000%. This is not actually a direct 0 to 100 percentage. It's a 0 to 10,000 value. So the higher the density, the more forest loss that's going to occur whenever you're creating your coverage maps. So creating multiple land covers will actually let you be very specific with the sections of your coverage. You can even create specific ones and eliminate certain types of land cover. If you do not want to if you don't want to propagate using any of the urban, so say you're putting indoor units and you just want to see what the free space loss would be without considering any of the buildings or structure, then you can just set the height and the density to 0 on your urban, and leave everything else the way it is, and that would make it to where you can project a scenario where none of the buildings are taken into consideration, but the trees and the terrain and the free space loss is still considered on the entire coverage. And you can assign these specifically, coverage by coverage by coverage. It is not a global thing anymore as it used to be. It's a very, very handy way to customize your maps and your TowerCoverage.com account. The next thing in our account menu is the overlay management. Your overlay management, it is restricted to a 3 meg in file size. This is a Google Maps restriction. We cannot increase it. There's no way for us to. But it does have to be a KML or a KMZ. Make sure it's less than 3 meg in size, and make sure you don't have any spaces or special characters in the name, so that way it doesn't try to make multiple overlays out of the same one. So you just take your KML or your KMZ. If it's larger than the 3 meg, you may have to break it up into a couple different overlays, but you just bring them into tower coverage. You lay them into the overlay management, and then they're visible from on your multi coverages. Keep in mind that if your intention of putting an overlay in tower coverage is so that way you have your tower sites, overlay sites cannot be utilized to propagate coverage maps. You're going to want to add each of your tower locations as a site. We'll cover that here in a moment. You can actually upload those as well via CSV format. But the overlay is just to give you visual representation of an overlay that you might have created somewhere else and you would like to see it in your tower coverage account. So keep in mind 3 meg or less, KML, KMZ, and no special characters or spaces in the name, and you can view any overlay that you wish on your tower coverage account. Antenna pattern files. If we have a lot of files and antennas that are available already in TowerCoverage.com, all of our antenna pattern files come directly from the manufacturer. We do not modify them, tweak them, or do anything to them. So the way they are is what the manufacturer is telling us that their antenna is capable of. So if you do not see the antenna that you wish to use or you are utilizing on your network, it's very simple. Just contact your manufacturer. Most of them have them posted up on a website somewhere, but you're going to want the radio mobile compatible .ant file. It varies a little bit from some other ANT files because the radio mobile version doesn't have any headers. It doesn't have any labels. It is strictly just 720 rows of gain readings, 360 rows for your lost my train of thought, for your azimuth reading, and 360 rows of data for your elevation readings for the antenna. You upload that into your tower coverage account and it will appear in your uploaded antenna pattern section when you're selecting antenna when creating your new coverages on your account. If we don't happen to cover anything or you have any questions later, there are several different ways to contact us as well, or find information. Up here in the top left corner, there's the tutorial button. This will activate the tutorial on your account. That's just a pop-up window that can be moved and it changes as you change pages. The Tower Coverage Wiki is a very powerful tool as well. It has a lot of information in it that will help you out. And there's also the Contact Us form here as well. This gives you a verification code, so that way when you call us, you can give us your verification code and we can immediately find you. And we also know whether it's an input user, a read-only user, or an admin user that's giving us a call. So this is very, very important, so that way we know if you're calling and you ask us about billing information, but you're an input or read-only user, we know not to talk to you about the billing. So it's a good thing to have. There's also the US and Canada numbers, or if you just want to send us a little message and say hi, you're welcome to do so as well. Right here is a little box that you just put in your question or your comment, or if you find a bug and you would like to let us know about it, just fill it in here and click send email, and that sends that email over to us and we receive that at support@TowerCoverage.com. So it's a very simple way, or you can just send an email directly from your email service as well if you would like to do that. Once you have your account all set up and you're ready to go, the next thing you're going to start doing is you're going to start building out your network. The first thing you're going to need to do is you're going to want to create your tower sites. As I said before, it starts out utilizes the address from your company profile, and as you can see, it opened up right here on Link Technologies, opened up on us. So creating your sites is very simple. You can do it in several different ways. You can search the address up here in the top bar and it'll move your pin. You can simply click the map. So if you know where your tower is and it's easier for you that way, find your tower, click on it. It'll update the latitude and longitude over here on the right hand side. It'll change those as the pin changes. It'll change it for you. You can physically enter the latitude and longitude, or you can enter it in DMS Latin long. Keep in mind when you're entering them in DMS Latin long, you will need to take into consideration which hemisphere you are in. If, as you can see here, the latitude is positive and longitude is a negative value, and that's due to we are in the northern hemisphere, so we have a positive latitude, and we are in the western hemisphere, so we have a negative longitude value. The same applies with the DMS Latin long. So the first box for your degrees is going to be a positive or negative according to where you're at in the world. Your description and your group can be left completely blank if you wish. The description, if you actually put a link or a URL in there, if you decide that you wish to display your map pins on your multi-coverage, you'll be able to click on that map pin, and that URL that you put in there actually becomes a link. So if you want to apply a Google Doc link to your tower pin site, you can do so. Then it makes it to where you can click on your tower pin and open up your Google Doc, and you have all the information on that tower site, whatever you wish to have. Your group is just for your notes purposes. This doesn't show up anywhere in tower coverage, except if you open up the site after creating the site. You can see what group they're in. And then you have your map pin style. By default, it sets it to the red pin. You can select any of the 4 colors that you wish to have. If you decide that you want to do the import site from CSV, there's a button down here that allows you to download the template and upload a CSV of your tower sites. On that CSV, you want to keep in mind that there are required fields, and they're very specific because it is just a CSV. You will be required to put a name in there in the spreadsheet. You will have to put a height, and it does have to be in meters. It has to be at least a 0 height value, but you can set it to whatever you want in meters. It does not have a feet conversion as this does. So the GUI interface here, it has a conversion that will convert from feet to meters for you, but the CSV upload will not. You'll have to put a latitude and longitude, and it will have to be in decimal degrees. The description and group columns can be left blank, and the map pin style has to have a value in it, either a 1, 2, 3, or 4, and that is on the spreadsheet as well. Just as you see here, the red is 1, the blue is 2, orange is 3, and green is 4. And then you just simply save it and upload it in here, and it'll add all of your tower sites into your account. All of your tower sites show up in your sites list here. They're very simple to edit and change. You can click on the little button here, and it'll let you make small changes here, or you can actually click on the name, and it will take you back to the big map version of it. We also have the ability to delete any of them that you want. It will not let you delete a site that's being used by a coverage or a link, and it'll let you know that if you try to do so. And then you can also use the map view if you wish, if you would like to just see all of your tower sites on a nice clean map. Once you have all of your tower sites in tower coverage, you're going to want to create a coverage. So you can either go to the coverage list by clicking on coverages, and there's new coverage up here, or you can just hover over it and click the new coverage. Creating a coverage in tower coverage is very, very simple. A lot because there's a lot of little help icons. You can also hover over. Pretty much all of the labels have a little tooltip. If you just hover over the name, it'll tell you what it does. We'll kind of run through them here. Your tower site is required. When you select your tower site and you hit tab or you click out of it, it will automatically populate the antenna height to whatever the antenna height that you have set in that tower site, but you can change it. You don't have to leave it what it is. The next field here is your RX threshold. This is in RSSI. We have the option to mark coverages as LTE coverages. Whenever you have your LTE coverages, a lot of times your CPEs will display a signal reading in RSRP. There is a variance between RSRP and RSSI, and that variance is not a dead set number. It varies depending on channel width. So that's why we've added this LTE option and also the channel width option here. The channel width does not affect propagation at all because the actual receive signal is technically still the same. It's just the RSRP value varies based on the channel width. So you want to make sure that you're putting in whatever your minimum signal requirement for an install is in RSSI. So if say for example your LTE coverage has a neg 120 and you're running 40 megahertz channels, so basically your RX threshold you're going to want to set to approximately a neg 90. And at neg 90, that'll give you the neg 120 area whenever your coverages are propagated. So just make sure you kind of do a little bit of calculation in there, so that way you're setting this accordingly, so that way your coverage map actually shows up accurately. Your required reliability setting. This is basically a fudge factor setting. What this does is the higher that you turn this up, the more statistical loss that is added to the coverage map, or loss per distance. The higher this is, the less coverage area you're going to see. The lower this is, the more coverage area you're going to see. You could leave this setting, in the 70, 65, 75 range. Set it there, start out there, do some tests with some real data. And then if tower coverage is projecting a hotter signal than what you're actually seeing at your test data points, then you can come in here and you can turn the required reliability up just a little bit, so it brings it back to real world values. So it's basically just a fudge factor adjustment slider, so that way you can hone your coverages in individually. Use land cover for a wisp. We do recommend that you always leave this on. If you turn this off, then your coverages are going to get highly inaccurate, because all tree coverage and all of your clutter data is removed from the map, and it is not utilized whatsoever during the creation of your coverages. The next section is use land cover type. This is where you select one of your land cover that we created. Your use to raise. For most WISP standpoints, you're going to have this off. If you're using LTE, generally you do see better results if you do turn this on, or if you're shooting over like huge bodies of water. It also gives you a little bit more accuracy. This is to take into consideration multipath reflection. So by turning this on, it'll give you higher accuracy in those cases. Create view shed. If you turn this on, this will take your land cover settings. It will ignore whatever you set the density to, and it will turn them all up to 10,000. So basically what this is going to do is turns your coverage map that you're currently creating into a strict 100% line of sight coverage only. So it will not allow any propagation to happen if a tree is even slightly in the way. And then as there's the LTE coverage, we already went over your average client height. We recommend that you kind of take a look at the area. If this coverage is pointing over a subdivision full of ranch houses, then you're going to set it at 4 or 5 meters at the most. If you look at the area that you're creating this coverage for, and it's a bunch of 2, 3-story houses, you can set it up 7, 8, 9 meters. For whatever your average install height for the customers in this area is going to be. Your client antenna gain, we recommend that you put the largest antenna that you would like to do installs with off of this coverage. That way you know the entire area that you can possibly cover. If you get an EUS submission that says that 28 dB dish that you're going to be putting up there is going to get a neg 35, well, you know you don't have to take that dish with you. You can take a little bit smaller antenna and get the job done. But by putting the largest antenna that you're going to be using in this field, it gives you your complete possible coverage with the option of taking a smaller one. Your RX loss and your TX loss are both identical values, with the exception of one's on the opposite ends. If you're just using integrated antennas or just little pigtails, usually a 0.5 or a 1 is good for either one of these values. If you're running LMR, you're going to want to make sure that you look at the specification of that cable that you're using. If you're running a bunch of cable that has a lot of loss, they all have a data sheet that tells you how much loss per foot that those cables create. So you're going to want to calculate how many foot of LMR that is going to be used, and you calculate that out and you put that in here for both the RX and the TX line loss. At the top here, you have the coverage name. We do suggest that you put something identifying in here. So if this is your Tower A 5 gigahertz setup, then you're going to want to put that in there. Keep in mind that you do not, if you're going to use the coverage array setting down here in the bottom right, you don't have to mark a direction, but if you're just creating a single coverage, it is a good idea to mark which direction this coverage is going to be facing, just so that way you can pick it out of a list after you get your coverages all created. If you're going to be using the coverage array, we can simply put the Tower A 5 gigahertz in here. If we are doing a coverage array, if we decide that we want to do 120 degree sectors, it's going to whatever this radio system, and you can create other radio systems as well. These radio systems are easily created from the radio system option. All of the settings in the radio system are the same thing that you see here on the coverage creation. The only difference is it saves it into your account and into this drop down list, so that way when you come here, as you see it, whenever I select one of these, all the values here they change. And that's because I have a radio system saved to preset these values, so I don't have to go through and set them all individually, coverage by coverage by coverage. So we're going to select our 120. It selects the 120-degree sector that we had set in the radio system. It sets it to 5 gigahertz and sets all of our stuff. Our exact center frequency can be left blank. You do not have to populate this if you do not wish to. This is for the frequency coordination feature on the multi-coverage, just to display if you're overlapping with channels. But you can leave this blank. You do not have to put that in there. It sets all the other stuff, your antenna azimuth. So we're going to just go ahead and leave this one at 0. So 0 is due north. So we're gonna calculate this at true north. That's how tower coverage uses true north when doing its calculations, not magnetic north. We've got all of our other settings in here, and then we're going to go ahead and click our plot coverage array. And what this does is it gives us the option to evenly space them. It determines how many coverages would be needed to create a 360 degree array of coverages. Now, if I didn't want to do 320 degree sectors, I just wanted one to face north and face south, I could set this to 2 and tell it to be evenly spaced. So then it will, when creating the coverages, it's going to look at your antenna azimuth, and it's going to utilize this to create the first coverage. So the first coverage, if it's pointing at 0 or due north, and there's only 2 coverages, for those to be evenly spaced, the other one would be a complete 180 degrees the other direction, which would set it at complete due south. So this is how you could actually just create 2 coverages pointing opposite directions, or you can set this to 3, and then it will create the 360 degree array of coverages utilizing your antenna azimuth and the beam width of the advertised beam width of your coverage. What it's going to do is it will start plotting it around. It'll create the first coverage that is tower A, 5 gigahertz, 0 degrees, and then whatever the azimuth reading of the next coverage would be, it would say tower A, 5 gigahertz, 120 degree. So it'd go all the way around the tower, creating coverages, however many coverages you have. So as you can see, we hit our create. So now we have tower A, 5 gigahertz, 0, 120, and 240 degree sectors. So it's going to create all 3 of those coverages. As you go through your tower, your network area, you get all of your coverages all created and everything. You can go in and in an individual coverage. That's the wrong one. In an individual coverage, we can be very generous or very conservative on our coverages depending on what we want to put. So this one here, you can see it's very, very small. I did this for a reason so I can show you another feature. We made this very small and just kind of covered the little valley of the town here, but we wanted to be very, very small on it because we only want the people that are going. We put the neg 60 in here, so only people that are going to be able to get a neg 60 with our very small setup that we got going on. We're very short very close to the ground with the antenna, so it's just a little pop that was set up just to get the area in the up and down the road here. So once we have all of our coverages in, you can then go in and create your fiber coverages, add all of those in. They are very simple to add as well. This allows you to actually draw lines on your account, and you can see one of them here. We drew just followed the road down here, and we specified 500 meters. So anybody within 500 meters of the fiber line, we want to return that as a serviceable area. So this allowed us to create a polygon of the coverable area with this fiber route. And those you can do up to 25 pin markers or 70 kilometers. We do restrict that. The curve of the Earth starts coming into account after 70 kilometers when you're creating polygons on a flat map. So they are restricted. But if you're drawing your line and you reach the 25 pins or the 70 kilometers, you just save that one as leg one or something like that, and then you continue on to with the next leg by creating another fiber coverage. Once you have all of your fiber coverages and your coverages into your tower coverage account, you can you can create your links if you would like. If you would like to create draw out your backbone links, all your point to points, you can do so simply by going to your new link, and just select your two tower sites. We won't go a whole lot into a link because it's basically all the same settings as a coverage, with the exception of on a link there, as you can see, there's no antenna pattern used. And the reason for this is it assumes a point-to-point link with proper alignment, so no antenna pattern is needed to generate a point-to-point link. But as you can see, there's a lot of different information here. So like if this was one of your backbone links, you could actually put this in and see what the lat and long locations are, what the tilt and the ground elevation at each different site, and what the azimuth heading for each antenna is would need to be for a proper signal to reach this neg 45 that this is supposed to have. Once you have all your links in, you can actually add them into a link group. We have the test group that's already here, so we can put this over here and update it. So we have both of our links are in this link group called test group. Once we have all of our links and our link groups made, then we can make a multi-map. Multi-coverages are very easy to make. You can simply select the whatever towers, or excuse me, whatever coverages that you wish to be in the map. If you're just wanting, you can narrow it down, just all of the ones that are from House Springs, whatever you want to type in there, it'll narrow it down, or you can just do check all and add selected, and it will literally put everything in here. You can give it a name, and we'll just call it all. Place pins on sites. The EUS data collection form option here, what this does is tells the EUS iframe whether you would like the end user submission website integration to appear on your website with the iframe from this map, or if you want an actual map, the visual map, to appear on your website. You can have both simply by creating two multi-maps, one of them with data collection on, one of them with data collection off. You can then take the iframe from both of those maps, put them on your site, and you can display both. That allows you to be able to display the actual visual map and the iframe form. Keep in mind, in your EUS settings, there is the option after they fill out the form to display your coverage map zoomed in on the client location. So if you just do the EUS form, that allows you to put the form, if they fill out the form and they hit submit, then they get to see your coverage area after giving you their contact information. That's just another option for you. Display fiber on display fiber on iframe. So what this does is allows the iframe to actually display your fiber polygons as well, not just your RF coverages. You do not have to do it if you do not wish to. And then make this map publicly viewable. You can have up to 3 publicly viewable maps, and as I covered in the beginning, the public map allows you to place your coverage on the Tower Coverage public map, and if a customer in your area finds TowerCoverage.com but does not know that you exist and they fill out our form, it will pre-qualify that customer that is requesting service off of your multi-map and send you the link path analysis or EUS submission and let you know that there's somebody that's looking for internet service and they might not know about you. So it's a very handy little thing. You can have up to 3 maps. As I said, that it's nice to be able to do that because if your network is very, very large and has chunks spread out, you can create a multi-map for the different regions of your network, and that allows you to be able to create a public map, and it places a pin in the geographic center of that public map. So it allows you to have up to 3 pins on the Tower Coverage public multi-map. And this place pins on sites, this does not carry through to the iframe. So if you are displaying the map on your website, you don't have to worry about it showing them your tower locations. That's an internal tower coverage thing only. So if you want to be able to see your pins, or your customer or your employees to be able to see your pins, then you'll turn that option on. Once you've got all your link groups and your multi-maps and everything done, then it allows you to actually utilize the multi-coverage. So we just opened up this small one that has that small coverage in there. This is a collection of all of your coverage information. This is where the real power of tower coverage really comes to a fold. It allows you to actually see the collection of all of your coverages. You can do a path analysis from the map. Up here in the top left are the options for the iframe. You can update your settings very simply. You can add or subtract coverages. If you want to add them in, you click on them and they'll move them over here to the right. If you're wanting to take them back out, you just click on the X and it'll take it back out again. And then you just click your update multi-map and it'll update it. You can also do a bulk update of coverages if you wish. So if you move anything that's over here in the right hand side, we would have had to update it first. Sorry about that. As you can see, just the one showed up because that's the only thing in there. So we'll go ahead and do it. But the bulk update allows you to make specific changes to the coverages that are included. So this one here, because it only has the one in it right now, if we do the bulk update, only one of them shows up. As to where if we open up one of our other multi-maps, let's find a good one here. I think this one has multiple in it. Yeah, it does. So this one here has the 3 coverages in it. So if we do our bulk update, it brings you to the bulk update of your coverage of your multi-map. Brings all of the coverages that are included in there and allows you to make small changes to all of the coverages at the same time. Keep in mind that it does utilize one API call per coverage that you are bulk updating, so keep that in mind as to if you have the API calls available or not. But if you want to make one small change, so for example, if we just wanted to change the TX power on all these to 25, we highlight this 20 the TX power row here, so that way it's in change mode. Set our setting and we hit our update coverage, and it's going to let us know that it's going to utilize API calls. And if you tell it yes, go ahead, then it's going to take those coverages and it's going to make that one single change on all 3 of those coverages, and then it'll keep the rest of it the same. And we'll go back to our test multi-map here. So we have, while that one's doing that, we can show you other features here. Also in the multi coverage here, you do have the option of ordering files from within your multi-map. This makes it very easy when it's 477 time. If you don't have a CRM that exports your subscription data, we do offer that option. You can upload your customer information, not their names, just the physical address of the service you provide, what the advertised upload and download speed is, and the lat and long, and you upload it in there, and we actually take all of that customer information and we create the subscription data CSV for you, so that way it's all ready to go, ready to upload into the 477 form. We also have the fixed broadband deployment section. This is very important. Whenever you're doing your Form 477 with the FCC, most CRMs, they do not do RF propagation, which means that they only know the census blocks in which you have customers, which is not what the FCC wants. They want to know all of the entire area that you have capability of providing service to, not just the area that you have customers in. This is really nice, especially whenever they're handing out grants, because if they do not know that you provide service there's the potential of them handing out a grant for somebody to build out internet service in your area because they didn't know you were there. So you want to make sure you file that correctly, and the best way to do that is by utilizing your TowerCoverage.com account. If you're wanting to make some pretty maps or do an overlay for some other reason, you can order the KML shape files. This gives you the polygon KMLs, the simple and the full polygons, the GeoJSON version of your multi-coverage, the image for it. All of that comes with that KML shape file order. Or if you're wanting to find a an address list, if you're wanting to market to this area. So the reason we made this map very small is simply for this reason. We made a very good signal threshold, and because we want to know what the address is of all these people that we can guarantee get service to. So if we come in here in our order files, we have the address list feature here. And it's very simple to use as well. If you click the address list, it's automatically going to select this, and you hit your get address count. What this is going to do is it's going to process and get a count of how many addresses are in the coverage area. So basically, if your coverage area overlaps their property at some point, it's going to provide that as an address. I went ahead and ran this earlier. It does take a little bit to run it. A small one, only like a couple minutes. If you have a very large map, it could take, 10, 15 minutes for it to run a count. But we do send you, it automatically sends you an email and lets you know that your count has been processed. As you can see, I got a bunch of them in here from testing and stuff. But I do have one that I actually completed as well. Once it's completed, I'll show you one of them. You go in here and it tells you there's 127 parcels. So the county for this area has reported 127 different parcels that are unique. So something about each one of them is different. So if you go in there and you order it, then you actually get the complete list, all 127 parcels that fall within the coverage area. And then you simply download the completed list. Now this is just a preview of the information. The actual information that comes in the CSV is very extensive. Depending on what the county provided, there could be a lot of columns that have no data, but there's always going to be a physical address. Most of the time, 99% of the time, the physical address and the mailing address will probably be pretty close to the same, but it does provide the physical address, at least the mailing address, sometimes two or three mailing addresses, who the owner is, market value, the use of the house, whether it's business or commercial, the latitude and longitude of it, all kinds of data comes with this. It's like 25, 30 columns of data about each individual parcel that falls within your coverage area. Very, very powerful tool. The cost of this does vary depending on how big of an area. As you can see, whenever we did the order, it does give you a kind of a breakdown of your return on investment. So it lets you know. So this one here with the $12 worth of parcel data. If your base subscription, if you only get 0.3% of that, those 123 parcels, you're going to get, in 1 month's time, you get 19, 3 months, 57. So it kind of gives you a breakdown of your return on investment. So you get to kind of know if what you're getting ready to spend is actually worth it for you. As I said, it's just a very powerful little tool for you to get your marketing out there, expand your business and it be you're sending flyers or marketing to people that you're almost 100% sure that you can get service to, because you honed in your coverage, you tested it, you made sure it was accurate, and then you pulled your address list, so you know that if they showed up in that address list, you can send an installer out there and get them. And then basically on the top right here is just kind of the all the settings. These instantly update. So if you wanted to turn your data collection on and then you test your iframe, see it automatically turned it into the form, versus the other way if we turn it off, and now it's now the visual map. So this is what you would see on your website if you integrated this multi-coverage. So if you simply just copy this iframe to your clipboard, and I'll just put it up here in the address bar here. As you can see, I pasted what the button copied, so it's the iframe that I would post onto a website. The down here in the bottom left is KML options. So if you have any of your overlays, they will show up in this menu. So anything that you overlaid into your account, so you can visually view. So we have an overlay, a default overlay that shows all the county lines for the U.S. You can change your different map types as well. So if you don't like the satellite view and you want to be able to see it a little bit clearer, you can do so. We have the radar available. And this varies depending on what the weather is in your area. But basically what this does is allows you to view what's going on with the current weather in your area. Right now we got a little spotty stuff going on here and there, but that's about it. And then you have your frequency overlays. And I'm not sure if I set the frequency on this one or not. I did not. But this allows you, if you have the center frequency, it allows you to actually view your center frequencies and it'll display the overlay for you. We have our set center option. So if we refresh this page, the map by default opens up right here. But if we decided that we wanted the center of it to be over here, we can drop a pin and update it. So if I refresh my page, you'll see that the map centers on whenever it opens on where I told it the center of the map was. We can click our View EUS, and this allows us to view our EUS data. And I don't have a whole lot in here, but we got some EUS data. There it goes. So we have our EUS data in here. So we can see these, all new EUS submissions that come through, they come through as a new EUS pin. And then we also have the ones that we have updated and changed. So this is really powerful as well. So as you can see, we have a new EUS submission that comes through as a yellow pin. If we hit View EUS, it brings us to the results of this submission. You can change these automatically. So as you can see, the EUS submission will give you the 6 best if possible. If there is 6 available, so whether they are available or not is determined by whether they fall within the maximum range and as well as the beam width filter. So just because a customer is in a green area on the visual map doesn't mean that coverage will automatically return it as a good link. If the sector is set to a beam width filter of 90 degrees, and it's an advertised beam width of 90 degrees, the chances are that sector actually has side lobes and spreads a little bit further, somewhere in the like 110, 115 area is actually the coverage of that 90 degree sector. So if they're just outside that 90 degree slice, then it's not going to return that coverage. So you want to make sure if you want side lobes to be utilized in your EUS submissions, then you want to make sure you set those beam widths accordingly so that way they show up in these submissions. And then it's very important to keep these up to date because whenever you're collecting your data, you can go in here and you can set this one to no service. So now he's a no service pin. And if we go back to our map, refresh it, and we will view our EUS data now. And you'll see when he pops up here, there it goes. Now we have no service pin, an extra no service pin in here. So it's very good to keep track of these so that way you can track customers that you weren't able to get service. That way you can also track your installed customers, your serviceable ones, whatever, however you want to track those. Or as I said before, when we covered the adding different pin types as well, you can create different pin types and assign new pin types as well. We do have the option of doing a path analysis. If you don't want to insert them as actual data, you can do a couple different things. So what we can do is we can come in here and go up to our coverage. And if we just wanted to check and see what the service is to this area here, we have a couple different options. We have a path analysis button down here, which gives us the option to use the coverage setting for the heights or set a custom height. If you already know that you're just wanting to use the coverage settings, when you drop that pin, you can just double click on the pin and it will pop it up. So as you can see this here, now here's a really good example. So what this does, you can see that it's in the green, but it's showing link not possible. So the reason for this is on the coverage, when a coverage is created, it kind of uses all of the area around it and it kind of averages the data out, and then it returns a close to very, very, very close to what your actual coverage area is. But whenever you're testing, it's always best to utilize your EUS system and look at what the output of the EUS reading is, or do a path analysis so that way you can actually get the real signal to a specific area, not just rely on the image. The image is very close to what you should be getting, but keep in mind that it is an average of the area, not exact points in space, where the link path actually takes that specific point and gets the exact height of that point and the exact height of your tower, and does a analysis on that specific location, not just an average of the area. Once you've got all of your data collected in, so another really powerful tool in tower coverage, so you can see we got a bunch of EUS data collected in here, and so if you got the website integration going, and 6 months goes by and you're not really getting as many submissions as you want, and you want to check and see where could I put up an access point that would get me the best possible be able to get those customers that I couldn't get 6 months ago. That's where Tower Coverage's best tower feature comes into play as well. So you can come in here, and in your advanced search, you can create a save search. You don't have to save any search that you do. You can search by pin type, by address, zip code, whatever you want to search by, and narrow your list down. Because if you get up in where you have thousands and thousands of submissions, going to be hard to like scroll through them and find a specific one. So if you're just looking for a specific one, you can use your save search or narrow down by an area. That's what this is for. Now, if you want to be able to look up that same those same search parameters over and over again, you just tell it to save it. So in this example, so we have our no-go save search. So this, anytime you click on the view of this, it looks at what the data is now. It doesn't just save the data entries that were that status when you created the save search. It runs that query every time you click on the view. So if I click on this view now, we have these no-goes in here. If 6 months from now, if I come back and I go to save search and I hit my view button 6 months from now, however many no-goes there are 6 months from now, that's how many would show up. So it automatically updates instantly as soon as more EUS data is added. Then what you can do is, if you're looking to build out, you want to know where do I need to put up an access point to get service to all of those. You can simply click on our best tower here, and you hit new. You tell it to use my no-goes from my EUS data and let me know where to put a tower to get, or where to put an access point to get service to these. And you tell it to create. You give it a name. As you can see, we have our yellow one tested over there, and we'll view that one here in just a minute. But we just give it a name, and you have the option of how to utilize land cover. You see it as penetration loss, which is the normal. You can remove the land cover, or you can set it to be seen as a solid obstruction. So what this does is basically is the same thing as doing the create view shed when creating coverages. Set your frequency, what the parameters of the access points that are going to be on this tower. It doesn't ask for an antenna, because it assumes that you're going to do a 360 degree. So it just finds a point assuming 360 degree coverage. Specify what height tower you're going to want to build. Whatever your average tower in your area is, or if you're actually going to purchase a tower and build one, specify what size tower you're going to build. Whatever the height of the customer installs is going to be, and you tell it to create. So it goes and tells you that it's rendering. Those take a little while to generate because it is millions and millions and millions of calculations. But once it's all done processing, you can actually view these best tower results. And what this does is it tells you how many records were submitted to the best tower feature and what the parameters of it were. And then it generates a heat map. And what this heat map tells you is the hotter the color, the more of the locations that were reached, the cooler the color, the less of the locations that were reached. So what you could do is you can actually come in here and you can look for and try and find a location that is the hottest, and actually click your pin and it'll tell you what the address is of that location and also the latitude and longitude of it. Or these little orange dots that you see populating on here, you can simply click on one of those, and this is going to actually show you a tower that is already standing there, and it'll take you to the FCC registration for that tower, who owns it, what their contact information is, everything you need to know about that tower. So you can simply contact them and try and get some space on that tower. And then once you have done that, you can go back into your account, create a coverage out of that tower location, go back to your EUS submissions, add that coverage that you just built up into your tower coverage account. You go into your save search and you view that save search, and once that coverage is added into your account, you can come and check it, and you can reprocess that the submissions that were run through the best tower, and you select the multi-map that you created with that new coverage because you just built that new tower, and then it gives you new signal readings, and then it will update all of these EUS submissions, and your new tower would be displayed in the results of the submissions now. So it's it's a step-by-step tool, but in the end results is you get to find out what the azimuth is, what the tilt on the customer is going to be. Their contact information is all there. Everything that you need to know about getting a hold of that customer and hooking that customer up. If you were tracking your data as these are coming in, you would have your customer comments in here, any notes that you took about why this install didn't work before. The tower coverage can help you run your business from day to day. So it's very, very powerful. But at this time, we've pretty much covered all of the features, all of our new features, how to set it up. Everything's pretty much touch base on pretty much everything. I haven't seen any questions come through, but if you do have questions, keep in mind that we do have the wiki that can answer many of your questions. We have the tutorial. As I said in the beginning, this tutorial changes depending on what page you're on. So as you can see, your coverage counts, APIs, your overall counts, all of the information that's on this page is in the tutorial. As you change pages, the contents of this changes as well. If it's just kind of in your way and you hit your close button over here, it will go away. Anytime you change a page or refresh your page, it'll just automatically pop back up. But if you want to turn it off permanently, you can. You can turn it on and off at your leisure from the tutorial menu. We have the wiki that is, as I said before, is very, very powerful. You can find a lot of answers there, or if you really just want to talk to us, here's the contact us is where you get your verification code, and you can give us a call. US, Canada, we're 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Central Time. Any support questions you may have, if it's not during business hours, you're welcome to send us an email at support@TowerCoverage.com. We check those constantly, so send us an email with any questions you may have, or just drop it right here in this little send email box, and that'll allow you to send a message directly to you, so we can help you. Or if you find a bug or an issue, feel free, hit the contact us and shoot us an email. Let us know that you found something wrong. We're happy to fix it. With that, if nobody has any questions, I'll go ahead and call the webinar to a close. Thank everybody for attending.